Okay, it has been way too long. Way too long. And I saw him 3 hours ago. But you, good folks, on the other side of the Pats Interference podcast, member of the chivalrous, catchy, cuddly CLNS Media Network, have not seen Doug Kyed, the people's favorite guest, back here on the pod. We are recording late Thursday night. It is Halloween Eve. I didn't ask you today at the stadium if you were dressing up tomorrow.
I am, but I'm not dressing up tomorrow at the stadium, like
Okay.
Megan Ottolini tried to peer pressure me into doing.
And
But
everyone, every single person.
I am dressing up tomorrow night, but it's a surprise to my wife and child, so I won't spoil the surprise on a podcast.
Nice.
The costume is sitting mere 15 feet away from me right now, but no one else has seen it yet.
Oh my God. Well, now I can't even think about the Falcons anymore because I'm so curious about this. All right, we'll talk about it off the air.
Yeah.
Like I said, it is Thursday night. It is Falcons week. Patriots have won 5 in a row. Vibes are high. It has been a busy week. 2 trades. Marcus Jones catching every award and contract extension known to man in the AFC East. Carlton Davis is on the show today, another 4-minute drill, where we're 3 out of 3 with the Uber aliases. He also then later threatened to knock the mic out of my hand because I made a reference to his hated rival back in college, Alabama. Anyway, stay tuned. Wow. Carlton Davis was as good as I expected, and that's why we had him on the show. Speaking of vibes, though, again, they're high because of the winning streak, right? But it's just, I can't put it into words why this week is just a little off. It's a little different, and it's not from the players, but maybe it's just facing a team in the Falcons who I've already said this week I kind of loathe because just figure it out, decide who you are and what you want to be and how, if you're good or not. What's missing? Let's just start with the vibes check.
I think for me, this truly has potential, and I'm not saying it's going to be, but just based on the circumstances, this feels like it could have the potential to be a trap game, only because they're finally playing someone good next week, and the Falcons are just good enough where, like you said, no one really knows what they are right now. They've beaten the Bills. They got shut out by the Panthers and lost the Dolphins last week. So they could come to Foxborough and almost anything could happen on Sunday, and I guess I wouldn't be that surprised. And that's why they have the potential for this to be a trap game for the Patriots. And I feel like we're saying it every week, oh, this could be the trap game. But the Bucs being next does change things a bit here.
Yeah, I'm going to give away my pick right now because I nearly gave in to this little nagging, pit in my stomach, anxious part of my brain, which, becomes bigger or larger just kind of depending on the day. And I didn't pick the Browns. So I'm not going to give in and give in to the Falcons now, even though this might be the time of which, of course, the anxiety will come back and said, I was right. I was right all along. I'm going to pick the Patriots in this one, but it's just there are a lot of things going on here. Before we get to Sunday, though, we should cover trades, which people who listen to other pods on the CLNS Media Network. And if you don't subscribe, go to the Patriots Press Pass YouTube channel. You find Pat's Chat now there, by the way. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah. You'll find Pat's Chat. You'll find Taylor Kyles and Mike Giardi and Mike Cadlick and everybody else, Alex Barth, Brian Hines, all of the breakdowns you want to find there, Patriots Press Pass channel. You will also see there breakdowns of the Keion White trade and Kyle Duggar because those guys are no longer Patriots thanks to a pick swap deal that was attractive enough to the front office, who, as I reported 3 months ago, has been trying to get rid of Kyle Duggar for a long time. And I don't have the particulars in front of me about eating the salary. I think there was some time passing where naturally this kind of goes to the back of our minds with Kyle Duggar. But the Keion White trade, which happened first, was by no means shocking to me at all.
No, not at all. Just because he was a healthy scratch in a game, 3 days prior or 2 days prior to the trade. I still don't love the edge depth that they have there. Maybe we'll get into ways that they could fix that moving forward. But when a guy's already been a healthy scratch, and listen, I don't mean to demean Keion White or anything like that, but quite honestly, since he was a second-round pick 2 years ago, he's had a disappointing career with the Patriots. Outside of a 2-game stretch last year where he had 4 games in 2 games, or 4 sacks in 2 games, we kept seeing him shine a little bit in training camp, flash in the preseason, flash at the beginning of the season, and then basically just disappear and get quiet for the rest of the year. We barely even really saw flashes this summer, and the writing was on the wall that this could be a potential, move when we saw Keion White start camp as a starter and then lose that role to Caleb Von Chason, who the Patriots signed for $3 million. Keion Chason was signed to be a situational pass rusher. That was his initial role to start training camp. But Keion White then lost his starting role to Keion Chason, and then even lost like the backup role to Anthony Jennings. Couldn't even dress last week. So no, this was not a huge shock. I did see some of like the more national analysts and reporters be like, whoa, why are they doing this? If you watched him week to week, if you followed him for the last 3 years, you really wouldn't be that surprised.
Yeah, I was actually reading Ben Solak, one of our combine friends, who I always say is like, the person in college who's in that big lecture and you don't really talk to, and then see at a party late in the semester and everyone's had a couple of drinks. Oh, hey, you're like in the back, right? Ben had a trade that more or less came to life. It wasn't exactly Keion White in the 7th for a 49er 6th-round pick, but he's in San Francisco now. And then kudos to Ben for that trade, but also later tweeted like 2 fairly young players, and him and Duggar go out the door, and this is all that you get in return is upgrading your 2 7th-round picks to 2 6th rounds. And there's a conditional piece where I think if it's Keion plays in 7 games for the 49ers, it's just an outright 6th-round pick. Pats get to keep their 7th-rounder. But the idea of these being younger players that you don't really know about yet is not only offset by the fact that Kyle Duggar is 29. Right. And as I've said here, Keion White is older than the guy you just referenced, Keion Chason, who's been in the league twice as long as a first-round pick. You know what they are, and it stinks that they have been a part of one of the more tumultuous, dysfunctional parts of recent Patriots history, but they had enough talent, and specific to Keion White's case, like had the starting job at the start of the summer and just fumbled it away. So I wrote 4 weeks ago after the Buffalo game, big win. Talk about vibes are high. He might be off the team soon, and here we are. 2 pressures, 76 snaps. They don't trust him to defend the run. He's undisciplined, just kind of does his own thing. We all see the talent. Glad I got out of the prediction business, I guess, though I backdoored my way back into there when it came to Keion White. But like, it's unfortunate because there's something there, and I don't know, maybe they cut him loose in San Francisco. But like this, I understand why people thought if you weren't paying attention down to down, but you and I watch every single snap. Like, it just was what it was halfway through the season with Keion White.
Yeah, and maybe he plays more inside of the 49ers. There wasn't really that opportunity for him to do that with the Patriots, since they've got Christian Barmore, Milton Williams, Kyrus Tong, all these guys in there. So yeah, maybe they do unlock him, but I also think there's an element here where, and I even asked Mike Vrabel about this, like, was there any hesitation to disrupting things when the vibes are so high with the Patriots, when the team is getting along so well, when everyone's buying in? White was someone who, I don't know if you would say he kind of kept to himself, but he was definitely a quieter guy in the locker room. I would say that Kyle Duggar was kind of the same way, where the Patriots aren't losing like 2 huge vocal leaders in these trades either.
No, for sure. And he wasn't temperamental, but Keion White was definitely kind of a mercurial guy in like the commerce sense of that word, and that caused his draft stock to drop. He literally told me last year that he didn't talk to anyone during his rookie year. He's like, I didn't talk to any of my teammates. I didn't talk to anyone. He's like, I usually in a new situation, I just like to stay quiet, let other people talk. And he definitely talked more last year. I heard him in the middle of a lot of like the locker room conversations. And I would say there was less of that from him this year. Yeah, no, for sure. It was often him just like asleep in the locker room, which again, you said it at the start, now it sounds like it, but we're not, bagging on Keion White. Like the tape was just that bad. Right. There's a reason that Patriots canvassed the league, and this was the best offer they got. Right. But yeah, as far as shaking up the locker room, I think Keion is a lesser part than Kyle, who, like, look, you want to talk about good soldiers? Was made aware. We're trying to shop you, and his people were aware of them talking to certain teams. Then it was a matter of money, and they couldn't reach a deal. And then he stays in the roster. And I report both sides were kind of surprised that he was still on the team through cutdown day, but there was an understanding that we might part ways in 2 months, and here we are. From a football standpoint, I don't think they lose a whole lot because he's just not a safety that you have in the system where you need to trust those guys to cover one-on-one. That's never been his strong suit, let alone when he's expensive and lost all of his burst. But it does put more pressure on a guy like Del Pettis, who right now, if Jalen Hawkins gets hurt again for 2 games, you're starting again. And he was starting last year. And we know why he was starting last year, because that team stunk and it was 4-13. And it's a different system.
And because guys were hurt, obviously, too. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But like you don't want to have the same depth as the 2024 Patriots, I think is more of my point.
No, and I would even say, like, so Kyle Duggar started 2 straight games. Jalen Hawkins returned last week, but Kyle Duggar started that game against the Saints, and then he started the game against the Titans, and he led up the big touchdown to, or not the big touchdown, the long play to Chris Olave, but he was kind of unfairly put on an island on that play to start the game. But other than that play, I mean, like Kyle Duggar wasn't really looking out of place in the defense when he was started on to called on to start.
Yeah, it was fun.
He was fine, and you do wonder, okay, can you get that same production out of Del Pettis or Richie Grant or John Saunders Jr., who they just signed off the Dolphins practice squad? Like, there's not a guarantee there, but I do. Obviously, the Patriots feel like those are more of the types of safeties that they want on the team.
Richie Grant revenge game, by the way.
There is that potential. 2-year starter for the Falcons.
Sunday, this is big. Former Andrew Callahan draft crush. Welcome to Richie. I still have not told him that. I told that to Giardi Monday. I was like, yeah, I'll have to go by and tell him, like, I'm glad you're here. It's been a long time waiting.
Yeah.
I would have had you here a lot sooner.
It's true.
Ball hawk out of UCF, but there we go. Yeah, it's a bummer, but look, I think Kyle is happy with the change of scenery. It's been a bad 12 months. I documented and said a lot of this in late August after all this went down initially, so we don't have to cover much more ground, and the Patriots move on. The last guy whose name has been in more headlines than either of those two this week is Marcus Jones, who Vrabel said this week. And actually, I want to stop on Vrabel for a second because I know you and I agree on this, and it sunk in more when we got away from Wednesday's press conference when he gets a question about Keion and then pivots to the Falcons. And I follow up and be like, hey, why don't you just think it worked out? He had the starting job. He's talented. I know he's gone, but like, why don't you think it worked out? He's like, I'm not really interested in doing that. And then continues to talk about the Falcons. I'm sorry. He's not going to talk about it Friday. And I don't begrudge him for that. But for 2 deals that had happened in the previous 12 hours, we're talking about this press conference on Wednesday. Unless Elliott Wolf was about to walk through that door, you owe fans, I don't know, those players publicly, and as someone who has been traded himself as a player, a little bit more explanation, understanding how he felt when he was dealt from New England. Granted, very different circumstances, but the point is, you could do better than that, and he chose not to.
Yeah, he got the 2 questions off the top. Basically said, like, I'm not going to talk about this on the first question. Didn't talk about it on the second one. I brought it back near the end to say, like, hey, was there a thought, like I said earlier, about shaking up the roster? Mark Daniels asked him about some of the depth. But, yeah, I think, not to, like, compare it, but I think that even Bill Belichick probably would have at least addressed both trades. Maybe to start off his presser, maybe he would have been asked about it. But I do think that he would have given the trades at least some time before turning his attention onto the opponent.
Yeah, which I
and that's not to say that that's the perfect way to handle it. I'm not saying that like Vrabel needs to be a Bill Belichick clone, but Bill Belichick was known as someone who did not give the media a lot. And I believe in this circumstance, he probably would have given more.
Yeah. And look, I say this as someone who has been in the, front row of the Mike Vrabel church and being like, what all good things are going to come from this guy who is now leading the clergy down in Foxborough. Like this is a guy, but when it comes to those conversations and that amount of commentary and things that had just happened in real news, it's a top item on ESPN.com, I think, the next morning. Like, you owe a little bit more there, and it's not to me personally. It's just for the player and what had happened and to kind of explain the thinking. But here we are. So Marcus Jones, this dude gets a 3-year, $36 million extension under contract now through 2028. He negotiated this himself with some confidence and dealt directly with Elliott Wolf and Matt Grove for about a month, and then just goes in on a Tuesday, his off day, and signs it. And then Wednesday, or Thursday, Thursday, wins AFC Defensive Player of the Month, which he told me today. He just like finds out via social media. There's no like announcement in a squad meeting. There's no plaque that you get. There's nothing. It's just like, hey, I have this to my name now. The reason they did this, and Mike Vrabel talked about this, he's everything they want in a player: tough, smart, dependable. We know he's a captain. He's got a sack. He's got 2 picks. He had 8 pass deflections in October, which was tied for the league lead. All of that stuff. Marcus Jones, I will say, not only just deserves this, and I do think this contract will age well for the Patriots, but is a player that I think, underrated, and I haven't even gotten to him being maybe the best punt returner in the league.
Right.
Because typically what I like to see from cornerbacks is just excellent one-on-one single coverage. And this goes to show you that even if you're not a lockdown corner, you can impact the game in so many other different ways. And he's a hell of a tackler. You can earn a contract like this, sign it, and still outperform it, which I think ultimately, if he's healthy, he will.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you didn't even mention the punt return touchdown that you had this season in your list of accolades or list of accomplishments that he's had. But I this year he's playing better than he has the last few years as well, which I think the Patriots' new scheme fits him well. I think that it's being advantageous for his skill set. He's all over the field. Like I compared him a couple times now, I think, to like he's having one of those like Rodney Harrison type years where he's just all over the place doing everything. Where I mean he has how many like tons of crazy amount of tackles for loss, pass breakups, like you mentioned the two interceptions. He's just making plays in every single game, and he's making important plays in every single game. So definitely deserving. I was somewhat shocked or somewhat surprised to see him win Defensive Player of the Month for the AFC, but I think that's another step closer to him possibly getting a Pro Bowl nod or like a second team All Pro or something like that. It seems like he's on his way to those types of honors as well.
Yeah. Good for Marcus Jones. Hearing that the Patriots are better for him being in the locker room, and he'll be here for a while.
Yeah.
Okay, so they make a couple of trades. The trade deadline is Tuesday at 4, and I have a piece coming out tomorrow, Friday, which by the time people listen to this, midday Friday, happy Halloween, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, the piece starts with what I think will happen at the trade deadline. It's very simple. I think the Patriots are going to try to hit some singles, probably drop a bunt or two, but at most hit a double, meaning they're not swinging for the fences this year. And I'm sorry to anyone who has been what I feel like strung along, frankly, with some media members who want to talk about A.J. Brown getting traded or Trey Hendrickson or all of these, frankly, pie in the sky suggestions. But there is nothing I have heard. There's nothing I have read. There has nothing that has indicated to me that they're ready to make this move because the Patriots don't think they're one player away. And teams do that when they think they are a player away, or the Chiefs or the Eagles or the Lions, and then you get down further to the Rams, Bills, whomever. The point is, I do think they should make moves. I do think they will make some smaller depth pieces, and I would have to start an edge defender, running back, and safety. Mm-hmm. It's just now a matter of do they want to give up their 6th-round picks? Because as much as we all look and go 6-2, and then you could be 7-2 by the time the deadline rolls around, you have to go for it. They might feel the opposite in the way of we're ahead of schedule. We don't have to do anything we don't want to. We're an offseason away. We'll save our extra bullets in the chamber. And if we hit our marks in March and April, we'll be contending for championships in 2026 and 2027 and 8 and beyond. Why are we in a rush as a way to try to leverage any teams that they're negotiating with?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see a running back come in, just especially you see this injury happen with Rhamondre Stevenson. We don't know if he's going to practice on Friday. We don't know if he's going to play on Sunday at this point. But it shows how quickly you use through your depth at running back, where now we're talking about it's going to be, if he doesn't play, Trevion Henderson and Terrell Jennings as the top running backs. You might have to get into a Jonathan Ward or Dearness Johnson or one of these guys who was just signed to the practice squad this week. So I think you kind of need to add someone there, depending on A, the severity of Rhamondre Stevenson's injury, but then also B, how good Terrell Jennings looks on Sunday, assuming he does play. Like if he plays well, maybe you lessen your need a little bit at running back, but it does feel like there's enough guys out there. I don't know if a Breece Hall is a swing for the fences type guy. I think it would take more than one of the 6, but like a Jerome Ford or an AJ Dillon, like someone who's done it before and who can do it a little bit better than what you currently have on the roster, I wouldn't mind. And then edge defender, it's once again, like it feels like there's more edge defenders available than teams seeking edge defenders, which is possibly one of the reasons why Keion White only went for a 6th-7th swap. So if they can get a deal on an edge defender, someone who can help out, someone who could either be a rotational piece behind Caleb on Jason or even play some early downs ahead of him, I would look to try to make that move as well, because you trade Keion White, who was a healthy scratch in week 8. Anthony Jennings was a healthy scratch in week 7. So clearly they're not super on board with Anthony Jennings being their 3rd edge defender behind Harold Landry and Caleb on Jason. Behind that, you've got Elijah Ponder, who's an undrafted rookie, Caleb Murphy, who you just claimed off waivers from the Chargers, Braden Swinson's on your practice squad, who was a 5th-round pick, but still, you cut him. He went through waivers and then added him to the practice squad. I don't even necessarily see a 3rd edge defender on this roster that the Patriots want to count on. So that's why I would look at that position as well as being like, all right, who's out there? Who do they think can help out right away there?
So it's interesting you say that because, well, first of all, I agree on the depth piece. And as much as I brought it up to Zach Cord today, the banquet coach, he did not agree because anytime you ask a question about, oh, how confident are you? And I don't mean to do a demeaning voice. It's just
Yeah.
I hear it and I know the answer that's coming. How confident are you in position X or player Y? They're never going to say anything less than I have full confidence in them because that is going to get back to the player if you say otherwise. Now, like you just said, they are clearly not confident in Keion because they just traded him. They are not confident in Anthony Jennings, whether it's right or wrong, because he was a healthy scratch, as you said, less than 2 weeks ago. As far as what comes next, I would also expect Anthony Jennings to be traded because, again, he's been on the block for months, and they just traded a guy who's been on the block for months. And if he doesn't get traded, well, then it's awkward all over again. But he told me yesterday, like, what can I do? I can't control that. I just provide value for myself and for my teammates. If they don't trade him, it also proves your point, which right now I'm not so sure about because I think the Chiefs and the Lions and the Eagles and even teams like the Bills will go, we can't cover it, so we better pass rush, would love to add edge depth. But the question, of course, is like, can you just meet in the middle? And the names like Hendrickson and Bradley Chubb are much more interesting than like Arden Key, who is probably where I think the Patriots are going to be fishing for. But the point stands of like, look, teams that are all in, which is to say not the Patriots, are going to be not only just incentivized, but more willing to acquiesce, I think, to the teams that are selling the bigger pieces because they feel like they are just one guy away. The Patriots will go, look, we're not doing that. We're keeping all of our day 1, day 2 picks. Best we could do is an extra 6 or a 4th. This is me projecting, not what I would do. And if they miss out, they go, well, we'll just have to blitz a little bit more because Christian Gonzalez just got back.
They can also, they can use Milton Williams as an edge defender. They can use Jelani Tavai as an edge defender. So they do have some other options there. We've already seen both those guys play on the edge. It feels like they don't want to do it on a full-time basis, but they do have some other options there on the edge. But I don't know. It just that position also just feels very, very, very shallow right now.
Yeah. Anything else on trades? Like I'm going to pod, on Monday night, you're going to pod on Sunday night after the game. And so we'll have like a final say about this. And I've done some other names and targets and like, I don't know, maybe Devin Singletary springs loose from the Giants and ends up here soon. But like, have we missed anything that we already haven't said or will say?
No, it'll be curious to see if they try to add a safety. Feels like they feel pretty confident in Jalen Hawkins and Craig Woodson right now. Safety feels like it's a harder position to just kind of say like, all right, go out there and play a bunch of snaps because they're so involved in everything. Whereas edge defender, running back, those feel a little bit more plug and play. But yeah, I think that running back and edge defender, the two that I'm really looking at, I personally wouldn't try that hard to add a wide receiver. I know that's been rumored about. But that's one of those things where it's like, I don't know if you really want to screw something up that's working well for you right now.
Yeah. John Saunders Jr., it just hit me. Do we know if he's the son of the late ESPN anchor and legend?
No.
He is not.
Well, I believe John Saunders' father follows me, and it's not.
That would debunk that question immediately. Yeah. So yes, you said that earlier today. So unless that account is from beyond the grave, that is a great point. All right. Last thing you mentioned.
Pull this up quickly. Does Twitter like work on your phone anymore?
What do you mean?
It like barely loads on my phone. I don't know what's going on. I think I need to like unload the app and load it back up again. But I was like trying to bring up John Saunders Jr.'s Twitter really quick because it had something on there that made me laugh earlier. And I don't think it will load by the time I'm done with this sentence. So forget about that.
Well, look at me because I'm going to give this a shot now. And I think
it says, okay, so his bio is thank God for everything, lockdown DB. I love that. I love that lockdown DB is in his bio on Twitter.
All right. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take safety off of my positional needs for the Patriots at the trade deadline because they have a lockdown DB. This is great. Yeah. Undrafted rookie right off the Dolphins practice squad. Dolphins playing right about now, by the way, and might need him, might use him, but too bad he's gone. You mentioned this offhand, and it's something that deserves repeating just because Rhamondre Stevenson, I haven't even seen the locker room, which is usually a typical sign that so-and-so is not going to play on Sunday. The other sign being they don't practice, and he did not practice on Wednesday or on Thursday. And so it looks like it will be Travion Henderson plus Terrell Jennings plus Dearness Johnson, or, they sent 2 other running backs to the practice squad. Again, more signs that Stevenson might be out for a while. I know some people would say, look, he's whatever he is by rush yards over expected or EPA or PFF grade. And I'm not here to debunk those numbers. They are what they are. Stevenson, though, has been running very hard the last 2 weeks, and you've seen his best football here. Breaking tackles, not fumbling. He has gotten 44 yards after contact last week and 34 total. That means that's not on him. There are ways that they unlock the running game. I would still rather have that dude, even as a depth piece. They will not, and that is more of an issue than I think probably people will give it credit for. The good news is he was the only one missing in practice today, and everyone else was limited and or full or upgraded to full. And so the Patriots are pretty healthy, except for number 38.
Yeah, I mean, it's not ideal because I truly do still wonder how much they'll use TreVeyon Henderson. I don't think we're going to see him just take over Rhamondre Stevenson's snap count because he's not that type of player, and I think they still won't really trust him that much in pass protection. So I think this changes the offense. And, I mean, Terrell Jennings has only touched the ball in garbage time so far this season. I know that the fantasy guys are all up in arms about Mike Vrabel's quote calling Terrell Jennings the 5-minute back or whatever it is at the end of games. Listen, that's because they're leading by like 20 points at that point.
And he was not being serious.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think he was trying to like pump up Terrell Jennings by calling him that. But like, if you actually look at the situations they were using him in, I think Joshua Dobbs was at quarterback in one of the games. So that tells you all you really need to know. But I don't know how much they can trust him in pass protection either. Or Dearness Johnson, Jonathan Ward, and Rushawn Baker, all of whom just joined the team this week. So I think this does change some of the things that they can do on offense by simply removing Rhamondre Stevenson from the equation.
It's a great point. And honestly, one I had not considered long enough at all because, again, TreVeyon Henderson plays, 13 snaps the other day? And 10
he's played 33% of snaps this season.
10 of those were rushes. And that was his best game because he had 75 rushing yards. But still, that trust, the lack of trust is evident in his minimal time in blitz pickup because it just hasn't been good. And I don't want to hear any more about his college tape. Okay. Like, this is a different league with bigger, faster dudes and more complex blitz schemes. You have to do it again. You have to learn it again. And when, as Tony Dews was explaining, who was sharing this with us? Moose was, former guest of the Pats Interference podcast, Moose Messina, camera guy for NBC. Said, like, look, when you come in, think you're good at something, and then are not as good at it, you lose confidence. And then that takes a while to build back with your fundamentals and understanding. And this happens with a lot of rookies, and it's happening with him now. So this is not unearned. People who've listened to the show know that TreVeyon Henderson has not played well. That's why he's not playing a lot. And we'll see if that changes a lot on Sunday. Is that, when I ask you what is Pats-Falcons about, how high is that on the list? And if it's not that high, what's above it?
I think it's above it for me. It's pretty high, but I would say last week was about proving that you can run the ball against the NFL's best run defense. This is more about, can you pass the ball against a team that's allowing less than 150 passing yards per game? Do I believe that Drake May and the Patriots offense can pass the ball? Yes, but this is just another chance to prove it before their schedule does get a little bit tougher against the Bucs and who would they play moving forward here. But I mean, I think there's other facets to why the Falcons are only allowing 150 yards per game. I think some of it is that they have gotten down by quite a lot of points in some of their losses and teams can just run the ball on them. But I think there's also an element there where they've got Jesse Bates and they've got AJ Terrell and they've got a pretty good secondary who's been very good at preventing other teams from throwing the ball on them. They face some pretty crappy quarterbacks. And I think that Drake May can obviously be a difference. They faced Josh Allen. So it's not like they faced all bad quarterbacks. I do think that Drake May can still pass the ball on the Falcons, but I think this is an opportunity to prove it.
Yeah. I think this game is about one-on-one matchups, which is to say, like, look, you could pin that on a lot of games on Saturdays and Sundays. But Mike Vrabel in his press conference Wednesday noted that when the Falcons are in base defense, which is to say personnel with only 4 defensive backs, or maybe he meant nickel, let's just say it's 5. They like to rush 5 a lot. The reason you rush 5 is that you get one-on-one blocks against all of the offensive linemen. And if one happens to lose their block, that leaves the running back in blitz pickup to kind of clean up the mess and get in the way. And as you just detailed, that's going to be a big part of this game if TreVeyon Henderson is on the field. Out wide, this is a team that plays more man coverage than most teams, and they play with a single high safety to load the box and say, we need to commit numbers to the run because we stink at blocking the run, which means if you win one-on-one on the outside, if you're a receiver, there's lots of space.
Yeah.
And those are all going to kind of dictate the way this game goes, again, which is to say a lot of games, but more so in this one. Speaking of one-on-one matchups, I'm going to get these out of the way real quickly because I feel this strongly. And I feel this strongly about these picks because last week I was 3-0 with our PrizePicks picks of the week. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Well, you're ready because you know what PrizePicks is, but I'm going to tell the folks at home, which is not only just America's #1 daily fantasy sports app, but is the easiest and best place to win money. Doug plays, I play, Mike Giardi plays. When we are watching sports, we are playing PrizePicks, and we're usually pretty happy because we put the good info we have on our podcast to good use. And here you go. Drake May, more than 30.5 rush yards against Atlanta. He had 50 last weekend. If you're playing man coverage, this dude is taking off. Bijan Robinson, Falcons running back, more than 3.5 catches. Keep those numbers in mind because here's how PrizePicks works. You take 2 players or up to 6 players and stats just like those, rush yards, touchdowns, catches, passes, pass attempts, whatever. You pick on PrizePicks, the stats and the players like I just did. You go more than or you go less than. You put it in a lineup, put in some money, and that's it. That's how easy it is over at PrizePicks. That is the simplest, easiest, best way to win money by building a lineup of 2 to 6 players. More than less than with all the stats. You file it in and lock it in. And best of all, if you are not playing yet, if you download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS, you will get $50 in lineups to play with, whatever you want to do. After you play your first $5 lineup, that's code CLNS in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the PrizePicks app today. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. The Falcons, they are... I hate this team. I'm just going to say I'm not even going to cushion it. I'm not going to qualify it. I hate this team. They're 3-4. They're 23rd in offense. They're 10th in defense. 30th in special teams by DVOA. Overall by DVOA, they're 21st. A week ago, they were 12th. And I want you to remember that because if you've ever woken up hungover, gone to Sunday brunch, puked up all over the table, come back to a parking ticket, and look, just whatever else happened, you got smashed in fantasy that day watching football. You still had a better day than the Atlanta Falcons did last weekend when they lost 34-10 to Miami. Before that was a 20-10 road loss against San Francisco, 24-14 win over the Bills at home, 34-27 win versus the Commanders. But again, 12th to 21st. That is the Atlanta Falcons experience. And now they get to come to Foxborough, and I don't know what to make of this except for let's start with the Patriots offense versus their defense. AJ Terrell's good.
Yeah.
They've got some young pass rushers. We just said a bunch of stuff about one-on-one matchups, or I did. What else am I missing?
I think what Vrabel said about how they rush 5 is definitely going to play a factor because I don't know how they solve that. I don't know if they just ultimately throw Henderson out there and see if he can do it. I don't know if they use Terrell Jennings in that situation. I don't know if they keep in extra tight ends. That's obviously not ideal, but it could be one possible solution. I don't know if they go heavy on, 21 personnel and have Jack Westover out there at fullback to help in pass protection. But obviously their wide receivers do have to win their matchups against these cornerbacks quickly. And AJ Terrell is a very good player. Jesse Bates is a very good player. Mike Hughes has bounced around quite a bit. I think that's a matchup that Patriots wide receivers can win. And I think that if the Falcons do lean heavily on man coverage, as they've done a decent amount this season, I think that Drake May can make a lot of plays with his legs in this game as well. And that's obviously the massive advantage of having an athletic quarterback is that if the opposing team does send 5, that's one less guy that Drake May has to run by in the defensive backfield. So he might be like for PrizePicks, is more than less than rush yards is 28.5. He can pick that up in one run out there against the Falcons. So I see Drake May's legs being a huge factor here.
It's so interesting, too, because their defensive coordinator is Jeff Ulbrich, who is not only famous as the father of the kid who texted Shedeur Sanders during the draft and was a jerk and said he got drafted when he hadn't been. He was the Jets defensive coordinator under Robert Saleh in this tree that has, sprung from the old Seattle 3 stuff and playing a lot of single high, which they do now, to being more quarters based, which is what the Jets were, which is what the 49ers are, in solving a lot of the Shanahan offenses, because when you play single high, you are vulnerable to the deep overs that often accompany the play action that McVay tree and the McVay offenses would use. And now here are the Falcons with Jeff Ulbrich all the way back to using more single high than any other defense in the league. So Part of that is, again, loading the box. Part of it is playing man coverage, but it's also playing some more cover three. And to your point, that might be able to open up the seams if you're the Patriots, but the Falcons are also number 2 in the league by DVOA against tight ends. So they understand, because Ulbrich coached against other McVay offensive coaches when he was at the Jets. Raheem Morris, who was in LA with Sean McVay, coached against guys and worked with guys like Thomas Brown now in the Patriots staff. And they know the answers and the counters that you want to use. But the simple fact is, if I'm the Patriots, your problem is AJ Terrell, who may or may not shut down one side of the field or one receiver. But I will throw at Mike Hughes because I trust Stephon Diggs or Keion Boutte against him. Then I can start to figure out what my answers are when they go to zone. But I like at least starting with, we're going to use some crack tosses to get you out of that man coverage because that helped against the Browns in the second half. And then run those deep crossers and see if you have some answers, because Drake's deep ball is the most threatening pass in football right now. And if the Falcons want to give you that early, you got to take it. If they don't give it to you, then you're going to find some other things that are available that you don't expect against, again, a team that plays as much single high as they do.
No, 100%. Yeah. And I think, I don't know, it's a weird matchup. Just because the Falcons have been so good against the pass, and it's just, Patriots have been so good at passing the ball. But I really do think, like, as far as what actually happens, what I expect to play out, like I said earlier, I think Drake May still going to be able to throw the ball on the Falcons. I'm not that scared of the Falcons personnel on the field. Like I mentioned, Terrell and Bates are good players. They've got other decent players on their roster, but I wouldn't be terrified of throwing against Falcons despite their success this season.
Yeah, Jesse Bates are really good, and there are times that you can bait those safeties and go over the top of them. But again, the coverage structure plays a big role in that. And what do they want to do? Are they going to back out of what they've been doing most often this season because of Drake May's deep ball, or will they commit to the run against a team that just ran for 175 yards in back-to-back games and is now missing their running back? Like, you'll find out very quickly how this game declares, I think. But if both teams kind of do what they do, the Patriots are going to win. Like that's what this is. So it's not a matter of, how much do the Falcons deviate, though that is a factor. It's, if they move a little bit, can they still win that way with Terrell and slowing the run down? Because they're bottom half of the league by EPA, DVOA, yards allowed per carry against the run. And they want to play a lighter box. They're going to be vulnerable, but you might be able to get away with it. I just don't know how they negotiate that and then protecting against May and winning consistently against man coverage, even if, again, that's what I probably would do. We saw the Browns have a lot of success with last Sunday.
Yeah, I actually expect the Patriots to possibly come out early and try to run the ball, even if Rhamondre Stevenson isn't on the field. But Terrell Jennings is a massive part of this game, because we have just no idea what that's going to look like with him running the ball against defensive starters, because we haven't seen it yet. And the Patriots offensive line has not been good enough, I feel like, so far to make up for having a practice squad running back out there. And that's not, once again, like, Terrell Jennings was on the practice squad mere days ago. So he's spent his entire career as a practice squad running back. It's not to say that he can't do it, but we have to see it. He has to prove it. Yeah.
Patriots last 2 weeks have allowed a sneaky high pressure rate. I mean, it wasn't sneaky against the Browns. Like 5 sacks is as loud as you can be as a pass rusher. That's like 2 megaphones, one in each hand, and screaming. But it's to say that, like, if you're the Falcons, you also might be more confident. Hey, we don't have Myles Garrett. You got a bunch of young dudes who were able to get after it and more athletic than your average pass rushers. And that's where, again, the one-on-one component comes in here. So, yeah, I think there's a feeling out period, even if both teams might have a real understanding of this is how they want to play, this is what they want to do. And then there's a changeup, and they both have to adjust. But over time, I expect the Patriots' talent to win out. The one thing that, of course, could change this, because the Falcons disguise coverage more than Cleveland does, is if you bait Drake May into trying to something daring that just doesn't happen to work out downfield, and where they spin from single high to 2. And it's not anything he hasn't seen yet. He's so quick at processing.
Yeah, he is, yeah.
But it happened last week, and the Browns just didn't have the firepower to keep up. The Falcons know, okay, if we just keep it close at halftime, we actually have a shot to win this thing if we're within a score.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, because we'll get into it in a second. But, yeah, the Falcons have some, I don't know if they're, like, they've got an elite running back. They've got 2 very good pass catchers. And, yeah, they can score in bunches if they need to, based on the playmakers that they have on offense. I'm still not fully convinced of what Michael Penix can do out there. And I guess we don't even really technically know if he's going to be out there or not.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I really am not all that. It's weird. I feel pretty confident about the Patriots in this one. I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, they're 5.5-point favorites. They're at
Right.
home. They're playing as well as any other team in the league. Only one other team, the Broncos, has won 5 in a row.
Yeah.
And I'm choosing not to be anxious about this. I just think it's a weird game. It's bothering me because the Falcons bother me. All right, let's go to the offense. You mentioned we don't know if we'll see Penix.
Yeah.
Kyle Pitts was also limited today in practice. So was Drake London. And those are most of the players that if you're playing Atlanta, even though they're scoring less than 20 points per game, you're like, uh-oh, we got to stop so-and-so. Because just structurally with Zach Robinson, who, by the way, is a great time to pause and remember the coordinator that everyone was hot and bothered over, needed to be hosed down last year. Gerard Mayo has to hire him, can't let him leave the building. Falcons fans will tell you, like, they have some of the worst tells in the league when it's under center versus shotgun and what they're doing. And that's because of the offensive coordinator. So maybe he figures it out, but we don't always know who the good candidates are until they get in those new rules and see how they do. Anyway, this is not a defensive Alex Van Pelt, by the way. It's just to say Zach Robinson, not so great. Penix or Kirk Cousins, I don't really care about as much as do we see Christian Gonzalez and Drake London? Because if Christian Gonzalez wins that, I trust the Patriots run defense over time, maybe not to give up, an explosive or two, or I should say, okay, an explosive or two happens, he gets a long run. He's that good. That could happen. But I don't see how they win this game if they can't throw the ball consistently enough against a pass defense that is still closer to average than it is elite for the Patriots.
I worry more about Kyle Pitts in this game, assuming he plays, just because I do think the Patriots are vulnerable against tight ends. We saw it even last week. I mean, I know that one of the touchdowns was in garbage time, but they allowed a touchdown to Herald Fannin. They allowed a touchdown to David Njoku. Herald Fannin was really kind of the only offensive playmaker that the Browns had in that game. And we've seen the Patriots struggle against tight ends really all season. It's interesting. I think they rank like 10th in DVOA against tight ends, but they rank very high in yards allowed to tight ends. So obviously they're still winning despite some of the struggles that they've had there, but they just still don't really have that ideal safety or a linebacker to match up against some of these guys. And I wonder, given Pitt's size and lack of bulk and lack of blocking prowess, like, do we just see them put a cornerback on him finally? We haven't really seen that much for the Patriots this year, but this seems like it's not a bad week to do that since he is really one of their biggest options on offense. And maybe I'm like very naive. Maybe I'm being absolutely stupid, but the Patriots have been so good against the run. This is another one where I'm just like, until they show that they're not going to shut down every running back they face, I just really kind of do expect them to shut down these guys. I thought Quinshon Judkins, he's had some really good games so far this season as a rookie for the Browns. The Patriots were just swarming on every single one of his carries. We're not letting him get anywhere. Obviously, he got hurt, so maybe he eventually could have sprung a big run or something like that. But the Falcons have what should be one of the best running backs in the NFL, and they still rank below average as an offense in EPA per rush. They rank a little bit higher in success rate. But it's not like the Falcons are coming in here ranking in the top 5, top 10 in rush offense. I think this is another game that the Patriots can actually stop the run despite it being Bijan Robinson out there.
Yeah, and it's really more the threat, not of the success rate, but of, again, the explosives that you give up. Because he's just not going to get 4, 5, 6 yards a carry as good as he is. What he might do, though, as we heard from coaches yesterday and today, is like finds that one little crack. And you have, Keion Chase on, who I'm sure they're going to run at as the same way the Browns did and the Bills did and the Panthers did and everybody does. And just say, you get out of your gap, I'm gone. Like that's kind of what it is. And Bijan's been good, but also game script will help this, which is why I say, again, if they keep it close at halftime, the Falcons know they can win. Like the Browns were banging their head against the wall because they just couldn't trust Dylan Gabriel to do anything else. And Bijan Robinson,
I think that was the most boring offense I've ever seen in my life, the Browns offense. It was unbelievable. After that first drive, oh my God, it was so predictable. It was so bad.
And that is an offense, by the way, because I've said it a billion times. I'm going to say it one more. That threw a flea flicker and a double pass in a 4-play span in the second quarter. Like, they knew they were drawing dead.
Yeah.
And they were still the most boring offense you've ever seen, despite having 2 trick plays in the first half. Anyway, Robinson, like, look, his success rate would tell you otherwise. He's 53% on the season running the ball, 549 yards, couple of touchdowns. I think there's also a way just to get him involved if you're Atlanta and you go, look, we would love to run the ball. Why don't we just throw some swing screens? Why
Yeah.
don't we get him on traditional screens? Why don't we get him on some pump seams? Whatever it might be, to just get the ball in his hands as an extension of our run game and then come back to it a little bit later because you have to get the ball to him. And I think, again, it's easier to key on in him if you do eliminate Drake London, though the Kyle Pitts point is well taken, and maybe we see that on third down with Christian Gonzalez, because then you put Carlton Davis, and I feel fine with him on Drake London, who, again, is limited. But it's just they have to get creative, and not desperate in the way that Cleveland does, but they've got enough here, even if their offense statistically stinks. And you mentioned Penix or Cousins. Do you care which quarterback it is based on how Cousins was last week?
Yeah, I think Cousins makes this a lot easier of a matchup.
Okay.
And to lose the Dolphins the way they did, Cousins was basically able to do absolutely nothing out there. I think Penix is more dangerous. He can hit bigger plays downfield. Not a lot of mobility from either one of those guys. And it is kind of fascinating not knowing which quarterback you're going to be facing since they throw with different arms. Like, I think that does throw a little bit of a wrench in the Patriots' plans where they have to prepare for both, but it's certainly not the end of the world.
That is another question that I don't know. Maybe because I'm in year 8 and I know I haven't been around as long as you have, but like the challenges of facing a left-handed quarterback, I'd never have to hear that question again.
No, it's true, but like there is a challenge there when you don't know which guy's going to play. I wasn't the one who asked it, obviously.
No. I know. I just mean like this was like every first Miami game when
for sure
got drafted. Yeah. That's more of what I mean. Like you mirror the other hand when you're going at him as the a pass rusher who's getting close, and it is different in this game. And you're right, like they don't know who they're going to see. Kirk Cousins, I agree, because of the mobility, because he's just not that threatening, and because again, he's recovered from the Achilles and it was clearly still affecting him last year. But there's just less they can do. And downfield, you're not as worried. Penix completing 61% of his passes, 5 touchdowns, 3 picks. You're like, yeah, okay. There's still just like a little unknown there. And the arm strength being what it is, guy does not like throwing to the middle of the field. But, if he can rip that to the sideline, that's still a big play. You don't have to worry about that as much as with Kirk Cousins at age 37. So,
no, absolutely.
Their offensive line's also better than Cleveland's was as far as run blocking. That's something I got my eye on. I don't know. Like, and that will bring us to the last point, because if the Patriots can't rush the passer and only hit Penix or Cousins twice, like they did last week against Gabriel, that widens the Falcons' path to an upset here. A comfortable quarterback offsets everything that being on the road should make it uncomfortable. And they just have not gotten the pressure that I know they want to the last couple of weeks. And I don't know if it'll happen Sunday. I, again, have already revealed my pick that I think they will win. But that is something, also a battleground that I think is a little bit underrated as we look at the running backs and the receivers and, the tight ends. Like, we all know what happens up front is what's most important. And right there, you can't call it a clear win for the Patriots, even if I like their talent overall.
Yeah, I obviously this is a big game for Milton Williams and Christian Barmore. They were Patriots leading in pressure last week through the middle. I think they could do that again. It's going to help if Christian Barmore's on the field for the first quarter in this game, obviously. But I also think there's an opportunity to blitz because Bijan Robinson has kind of struggled as a pass protector this year. So if you can keep him in in blitz pickup and rush either Christian Ellis or Robert Spillane or even Marcus Jones or something like that, I think there's an opportunity to get to the quarterback that way. But yeah, it's been inconsistent so far this season, especially the Harold Landry and Caleb Von Chason getting the quarterback, and it feels like at some point it's all going to gel together, and you're going to see one huge game for the Patriots defense pressure wise. But it's been so mixed, and it's come late in games. It's come on 3rd and long. I know that Vrabel would like to see it more on early downs. Obviously tougher to get after the quarterback in those situations, but I do think that's going to be massive for the Patriots in this game.
Yeah. Christian Barmore still without a sack this season.
I know. It's interesting because he's getting, like, he was very disruptive for the 3 quarters he was on the field.
Do you want to talk about that since you've referenced the suspension?
No, I'm just like, obviously it hurts the team not having him out there. Like, and it is what it is. Obviously they've gotten past it, and they beat the Browns handily, but he wasn't on the field when the Browns had their scoring drive, and Christian Barmore would have helped in that situation. So I don't know exactly what it was that he did. No one does. But it's going to help to have him out there.
Yeah. Yeah. You hope he learned. You hope
Yeah.
he's going to grow and move on like everyone has insisted immediately when we just kind of show up and do our job and be like, hey, what happened? What's going on? I want to watch Christian Barmore play football too.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
it. All right.
I will say, and
Yeah.
this is deep in the woods here, Joshua Farmer and Corey Durden have been like pretty solid.
Yes. Yep.
As far as your 4 and 5 defensive tackles go, because we've all talked about Kairos Tonga. I think enough at this point. He's been great.
Not enough, but we've talked about him. Yes.
I feel like we get some sort of question about Kairos Tonga every week to Mike Vrabel, but still no. Like Joshua Farmer and Corey Durden are out there making plays and stopping the run. And I asked Zach Corey today about it because like usually when they're on the field together. Like it is kind of like a hockey style shift change when they put them out there. But I'm always a little bit nervous when I see those guys playing next to each other. It's like, all right, you're taking 2 of your best players off the field on defense and they hold up and they get pressure and it's good.
Yeah. And you want to see that from Joshua Farmer, right? 4th round pick. Like
absolutely.
We had enough confidence. They traded up to get him. Granted, it was the end of the 4th round and the athleticism stuff wasn't great. Tape was a little inconsistent. That Florida State team last year, though, was trash. So it's, all taken into context, but
for sure.
Pleasant surprises for sure. Like I will not have maybe I will have a pleasant surprise superlative or category for my midseason awards this weekend. But he'd be like receiving votes.
There's a lot, though. There's a lot of pleasant surprises.
Yes, exactly. And that's the point.
Garrett Bradbury, Kairos Tonga.
You get invited to the award show, like they've had a good night. Corey Durden is walking the red carpet, at this award show for a midseason awards. He's having a good night. You're not going to be on stage, but you're there.
That's true.
Have you ever been to an award show, by the way?
I don't think so, no.
You ever walked a red carpet?
No. Even like the NFL honors thing, I usually try to stay away from that during Super Bowl week because there's so much else going on. So, no, I don't think so.
My guess would have been no, but I was like, maybe there's
Boston
something.
Sports Awards back in like the 90s I was at.
Oh, cool.
Derek Lowe was there. Byron Defoe was there. I forget who else.
Byron Defoe. Wow.
Yeah.
Throwback.
So I went to that with my dad, but no. So I guess I have when that still existed.
Cool. Yeah, I got nothing else on that. Okay, game picks.
I think the Patriots are going to win. I think I had it 24-14. Low scoring game, but kind of similar to last week. Falcons hang around the first half, then the Patriots kind of hit the gas and get going in the second half.
I'd say 27-19 Patriots, and I don't even believe in my pick, but that's the one that I'm going with. I don't like. We don't know what to expect from the Falcons. There's a part of me that just, as you suggested earlier, trap game. Is this what we're talking about? Is this what we're looking at, or just finally like Drake May runs out of space, on the graph just to keep going and on the chart, and just has to come down a little bit because he's been the legitimate midseason MVP. I don't know, but I think they win and they go to Tampa 7-2, and if they win that game, to me, then they're Super Bowl contenders. You'll have a winning record against playoff teams. You'll be winning 80% of your games, and at that point, strength of schedule, it is what it is. But you're one of the best teams in the NFL. If you lose though Sunday, I will be doing a little bit of peacocking, a little bit of told you so to everyone who wanted to call them Super Bowl contenders right now because you beat the Browns and the Saints and the Panthers and the Titans and the Dolphins.
Right.
But if you win, you're one win away. So that'll be fun.
Yeah. I think it's still too early to call them legitimate Super Bowl contenders, even after beating the Bills. Like someone asked in the mailbag this week, like, are they Super Bowl contenders or pretenders? It's like, you can't really call them pretenders after beating the Bills.
I know.
Well, and they're also not necessarily contenders. It's like you don't like playing in the middle there, but you almost have to.
That's where most of the league is,
Right.
Like it's. I know why people frame it that way, but if you just sit and think and be like, we'll know soon. For right now, like there aren't enough pelts on the wall. That's how I put it. It's what you're doing and what you've done. Neither of those are impressive enough, and it's not their fault. They've had a bunch of cake walks on their schedule, but give it a little bit more time. That won't be the case, and you'll be able to point to this is what we've done. Beat the Bills. This is what we're doing. Beating the Bucks, and I go, okay, good enough for me.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you're done with Pat Chateau after the game Sunday. Is that all right?
Yeah, unless there's some sort of trade, which I definitely don't expect. Like trades usually happen early in the week.
Yeah. Probably Monday once that's done. All right, listen to Pat's chat. I will see you tomorrow down at Gillette, and we will get to watch the Falcons, and then we won't have to see them for 4 years. I'm very excited.
Sounds good. I'll see you tomorrow.
Another week, another 4-minute drill. This time we got Carlton Davis, first-year Patriot, first timer on the 4-minute drill. Where the only rule is we start the clock, and you can't run out the clock. So you ready to go?
Let's do it.
All right. So here we go. Last couple episodes, we found out that some of your teammates have a fake name that they use when they get in an Uber. Do you have an Uber alias?
Oh, yeah. I would probably say like CJ or something, just to keep it simple.
Yeah. Do people recognize you despite that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, one guy was like, "Are you Carlton Davis?" I'm like, "Nah." He's like, "You sure?" I'm like, "Nah." He's like, "All right, you look awfully close to him." So, I mean, sometimes they notice you, and it's like, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah. All right. Is it true that you're taking penalties every once in a while just because you're bored out there?
I don't know. I mean, bro, I'm just trying to play the best ball I can. I don't know. I'm not getting as many targets as I would like, but hopefully it picks up this week. And I guess we just need – I don't know. I don't want to comment on the penalties because I might get fined.
It's a safe space.
Yeah, but, you know, it's a little ticky-tacky. Maybe they want to spice up the game a little bit. It is what it is. I have no control over that, so no comment.
Good answer. Coach Vrabel would like that answer. Speaking of this, let's say Coach Vrabel's out for a day. Carlton Davis is now the head coach of the Patriots. Just one day. What's something different you would do running the team?
I would keep it somewhat the same. I don't know, man. I would maybe practice early, get it out the way, and just meet after.
So you get to go home?
I mean, we get to go home early now.
Okay.
It's just a preference to practice earlier, but, I mean, yeah, the schedule's cool now. We can get out really early, but I would practice earlier for sure.
Worst date you ever had? What happened?
First date? Damn. I don't even remember a bad day. I haven't had a bad day in so long. Maybe like just being catfished or something.
That's tough.
Yeah, that's like the worst. That's like the worst of the worst.
I'd imagine. All right, it's 2035. Netflix is making a Carlton Davis documentary, but it's not about football. What is it about?
Maybe me just like growing up in Miami and like the interesting times I've had between being like a child and before going off to college. Because, you know, growing up in Miami, it's an adventure for sure.
You got one story, quick one, come to mind? Or you can tease it.
Man, bro, just hanging out with the Brodies, you know what I'm saying? Just getting into stuff that kids get into, man. Trouble. Nothing crazy, though. Nothing like that's like worth getting arrested over or anything like that. But we just definitely enjoyed ourselves.
All right, who's your most underrated teammate?
Underrated teammate? To like the media?
Just in general, yeah.
Jalen Hawkins.
He's balling right now. You see that interception?
Yeah, crazy.
I've watched it maybe 10 times. Don't tell him, though. If you hadn't signed with the Patriots in free agency, where were you going?
Probably back to Detroit.
Was it close?
Yeah.
All right. You got a good Dan Campbell or Tom Brady story?
Dan Campbell or Tom Brady, that's like two different guys.
I give you the choice. You get to pick one. People, I'm sure, ask you about Brady all the time when you were with the Bucs.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And Tom was a cool guy. Man, I don't know. Tom was like a really nice guy. I've only ever seen him, you know, get rowdy when we was getting our ass kicked by the 49ers, and he just like, it was the first time he yelled at the whole team. And it was like, oh, shit. Felt bad for letting Tom down, you know?
Worse than you've ever let down a coach?
It's kind of similar, bro. It was like maybe a little bit more because it's Tom Brady, you know? You don't want to let down a GOAT.
All right, we got two more and we'll get you out of here. You're a proud Auburn Tiger. Do I have that right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
What would it take to give us a Roll Tide? Is there a number?
I'm going to smack that mic. Hey, get that mic out of here, man.
All right, well.
I would never, bro. It's just not in me, you know. Shout out to my Alabama teammates, but your day is coming soon. And, you know, we can still wreck their season. We paid them we didn't have a good season so far, but we got a chance to wreck theirs.
Okay. Last one. We always end on this. Which teammate should we interview next and why?
You should interview maybe like Barmore, have you done Barmore yet?
We've done Barmore, and people keep saying you got to go back to him.
He's crazy. He's so funny.
He said he would catch a duck in the wild. I said, how long would you last? Because I just run down a deer.
Okay, see, that's the type of answers you get from him. If it wasn't him, maybe like Jalen Hawkins. I would say Jayhawk for sure. He's an interesting guy.
Yeah. All right. Carlton Davis, acing the first 4 minute drill. I appreciate you putting in some overtime.
Appreciate you.